Hi everyone, this is Sharan here. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is for those people who are afraid of data science interviews. Some of you even might have had failures in data science interviews. I have failed in many data science interviews and I continue to fail in many things. But what is important here is it is important to understand that we shouldn't be afraid of our failures. We have to see these failures as an opportunity for us to learn new things. In this video, I'm going to talk about the various preparation techniques, tips that can be followed that will help you in order to perform well in your data science interviews. This video is based on 10 years of my experience as well as the various failures that I have had in my data science career. So I hope you would be able to learn from the various failures that I have had in my data science career in order to prepare well for your data science interview. So before getting into the topic, the one important thing I want every one of you to understand is some people might find success in first attempt. Some people might take few attempts and some people might need more attempt in order to find success. But what is important here is it is important for you to have the perseverance and it is important for you to believe in yourself until you achieve your goal. If you are someone who is coming from a non-technical background, or if you are someone who is looking for some kind of a motivation in order to prepare for a career in data science, what I will do is I will provide a reference to one of the most interesting articles that I have found about preparation for data science interview. So this particular person took about 475 data science interviews and about 6 months of time in order to land the perfect data science dream job. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 5 aspects that are very important when it comes to the preparation of data science interview. So I'm going to cover each of these aspects in detail one by one. So make sure that you stick to this video until the end to understand what are all the various areas, what are all the various reference materials that can be used in order to prepare across all these aspects. So the first one in this list is preparing for the opening. So based on one of the recent articles, research articles, it has been found that about 33% of interviewers have made a decision of hiring a particular candidate in the first 90 seconds of an interview. So from here, you can understand that how important is the first 2 to 3 minutes of your data science interview. Almost 90% of interviews that you can take, the first question that will be asked in your interview is to tell about yourself. So if you are well prepared for this particular question, almost like you have a 50% chances of impressing your data science interviewer, or it can be like any interviewer. So how do you prepare for this kind of a question? Tell me about yourself. How to prepare for a question like this? So most people fail to prepare for questions like this. They spend a lot of time in learning various concepts, various algorithms and so many things, but they fail to prepare for an important question like this. There is a very simple formula in order to prepare for the question like tell me about yourself. So the formula is, first you need to talk about the present. So to whom you are working for, what is the project that you are currently working on, and how long have you been with your current organization. That's it. So this, you should start with your current scenario, and then what you need to do is you need to go to your past. So you need to tell about your work experience in detail, or your educational background in detail, and what are all the various achievements that you have done in the past. What are all the various interesting projects that you have worked on? What kind of interesting outcomes that you have achieved? What kind of impact that you had in your organization or across your customers? And after covering about your past, the last aspect of this question should be the future. So what is your goal? How do you think that the current role that you have applied for will be best suited in order to achieve your career goals? So it is quite simple. You need to start with your present. You need to talk about your past, and you need to talk about how your current role will be well suited for you to achieve your career goals. If you are able to prepare for this particular question as per this simple formula, I can guarantee you that you will be able to make a good impact with your interviewer. The second important aspect is to prepare for the basics. So once you have made an impact with the interviewer. So then what is important is it is important to make sure that you don't give any reason for the interviewer to reject you. In most interviews, what happens is one of the common reasons that the interviewer get to reject a particular candidate is if the candidate doesn't understand the basics. So it is very important for you to understand the basics and be well prepared for some of the very basic questions. So in data science, if you asked me what are all the various frequently asked basic concepts or basic questions in an interview are, number one, it is about the feature engineering. Like in any data science project that you can take, but it can be predictive, non-predictive, descriptive, whatever it might be. One important aspect is feature engineering. The various techniques that are commonly used for feature engineering are imputation, handling the outliers, and log transformation, scaling, one-hot encoding, binning. So these are all the various concepts that are commonly used in feature engineering. So once you have covered the feature engineering, let's move on to the next important topic that is most frequently asked is the feature selection. So what are all the various technical concepts that you use in order to identify what are all the various best features that can be used maybe in your predictive model or in your analysis? Some of the common techniques are, for example, information tree. So how you can make use of a decision tree in order to identify the important attributes or features for an algorithm. Chi-square test. Chi-square test is a very important technique that is commonly used in order to select various categorical features that can have a good impact in your model. The other techniques are like making use of correlation in order to eliminate those features, some of those features that are highly correlated to each other. And the other techniques are forward selection, backward elimination, and lasso regularization. So these are all some of the techniques that can be used in order to identify what are all the various features that are important in your problem. So like in your problem, how these features can be used in order to come up with a better predictive model, or can be used to come up with a better analysis. The next one is the model selection. So coming to the model selection, the various metrics that can be used depend on what kind of problem that you are trying to solve. So it can be a classification problem or it could be a regression problem. So if it is a classification problem, you need to understand what is accuracy, and you need to understand what is precision, what is recall, what is loss method. So on the other hand, if you are trying to solve a regression problem, you need to understand various techniques such as mean absolute error, root mean squared error, mean squared error, R squared, adjusted R squared. These are all the various techniques that are commonly used in case of a regression problem. So apart from these basic concepts, the other topics that are usually asked in the data science interviews are topics such as like dimensionality reduction. What kind of techniques can be used for dimensionality reduction? What is an principal component analysis? How they are used for dimensionality reduction? So you need to first understand what is dimensionality reduction and how it can benefit a particular problem solving, right? How it can help in reducing the noise, how you can help in using like lesser memory, and how to like increase the computation speed by making use of dimensionality reduction techniques. The other one is regularization. The two common techniques in regularization are ridge and lasso regularization. So you need to understand the common difference between these techniques. Like for example, one of the most important difference between an ridge regularization and lasso regularization is, in case of ridge regularization, you do not eliminate or you do not remove any feature that is part of the dataset. So what happens is you will reduce the coefficient of each of those features, but you never make it equal to 0. So what happens is if you have 100 features, you continue to have 100 features, but the difference is for some features you will have a coefficient which is like close to 0, and for some feature you will have coefficient which are large enough. In case of lasso regularization, what happens is for some of the features, the coefficient will be made 0, which means that you are effectively removing those features from your dataset. So this is an important difference between ridge and lasso regularization. The other topic that is commonly asked in interviews are what is the difference between bias and variance. How to have a balance between bias and variance in model selection. So these are all the various important basic concepts that are commonly asked in data science interviews. So you need to be well prepared for these questions. So now coming to the third aspect. So what is the third aspect? You need to be well prepared about your project. So we all work on multiple projects. It is the normal human tendency to miss out the granular details involved in our project. Over time, we tend to forget some of the key decisions that happened or some of the rationales behind some of the key decisions in our project. But you won't believe me, it is very important to make a note of all these details, because when you have a conversation with your interviewer and if you are able to recollect details such as these ones, you will be able to make a positive impact. You will be able to give a confidence to the interviewer that you are well involved in this particular project, in the problem solving. So it is important for you to make sure that you do not forget the granular details involved behind a project. So how can you ensure that you do not forget the granular details? There are simple things that you can make a note of about your project. So what I would recommend is, once you complete implementation of a particular project, then you need to spend some time in order to answer some of my questions that I'm going to list out. So these questions and the responses for these questions should be documented and then should be saved in an area, so you should be able to reference them quickly before your interview. So some of the important questions about the project that you should document are: what is the summary of the project? Maybe in 2 to 3 lines. A quick summary that directly explains the particular problem. What was the goal of this particular project? What was the team, like how many data scientists, how many data engineers, were there people involved with other skills, and what was the background, how big was the team, like whether there was any project management team that were involved in it. So basically about the team, you need to document about the team, like how many people involved, what were the various roles of each and every one. The next one is some of the key decisions that were made during the project and what were the rationale behind those decisions. What were the technical or non-technical issues that you have faced across the implementation of this particular project? It could be technical issues such as like a memory issue while using a particular algorithm, or it could be issues such as data quality issue while coming up with the features, and how you addressed those data quality issues. And what are all the various tips involved in the implementation of this particular project? What were the various techniques, algorithms, tools that you used in order to implement this particular project? And what kind of impact were you able to make by implementing this particular project? What was the change that happened? What was the impact across the customer base? Or what was the impact for your organization? It could be something like maybe reducing the churn by X percentage, or improving the customer satisfaction level by Y percentage. It could be any of these things, but it is important to understand what was the impact that your project made to the customers and the organization. And finally, one important question that you need to answer is, if you want to redo this particular project, what will be the various improvements or changes that you will make in order to make sure that this project is much more successful or much more efficient. So these are all various questions that you need to answer, whatever be the project that you are working on. This will help you to maybe reference before your data science interviews, to make sure that you do not forget the granular details involved in your projects. So now coming to the fourth aspect, so reading about the job as well as the company that you are applying for. So it is very important for you to understand what is the role that you are applying for, and you need to know about the company where you are applying for the job. Some of the areas where you can learn about these companies and the job profile are: the first one is the job description, which through which you would have applied for this particular job. You need to understand the job description. You need to understand what is being expected, what is important for the role, and how do you think you are a good match for that particular description. Next one is you need to understand about the company. Like some of the places where you can understand about the company is, you need to go through their website. You need to go through various news on Google News to understand what are all the various recent things that is happening across the company and or across the industry. You need to go through their social media handles, like most importantly Twitter, in order to understand if there is any important aspects that are being shared across the social media. So if there is a technical blot, you need to go through those blots to understand their way of working, or what kind of problems that they are trying to solve, that will help you to understand better about that particular company. You can also spend some time to understand about the competition, what are all the various competitions in the market and what do the competitions do. And you can also in general search about the industry to see how the industry is performing maybe in the country where you are applying for this particular job. And finally, you can maybe go through the Glassdoor reviews and experiences in order to understand whether this particular company and this particular role will be best suited for you, and how to prepare for an interview. The fifth aspect is learning from your mistakes and having a good mentor. So after every data science interview that you participate, what you need to do is immediately after the interview, you need to spend at least maybe 15 to 20 minutes of your time to understand what are all the various areas where you performed really well. What were the various questions where your response were really good? What were the various questions where your response could have been much better? So now you need to focus on these areas where your response could have been much better. So what you need to do is you need to prepare for these questions, and you need to talk to your friends, your colleagues, or a mentor who is maybe 3 to 5 years ahead of you in the data science career, in order to be well prepared for similar questions that can be asked in the future. So by this way, you will be able to learn from your mistakes and you would be able to perform better in your next interview. Having a mentor in your data science career is very important, because it not only helps in discussing about various problems that you are working on, it is also very useful to have a mentor, because you can have access to the network of your mentor. If you have any questions, you can maybe have a discussion with your mentor to understand how best those problems can be solved. And what is most important is you need to make sure that your mentor is someone who is 3 to 5 years ahead of you in your data science career. It shouldn't be less than it, or it shouldn't be more than it. So if it is someone who's having, let's say, maybe 10 years ahead of you in the data science career, maybe that particular person will not be able to relate to maybe what you are experiencing. So it is important for you to choose someone who's just 3 to 5 years ahead of you, so they would be able to better guide you than someone who's maybe 10 years or 15 years into their data science career. So these are all the various important aspects that makes a lot of difference in your data science interview preparation and performance. So apart from this, there are some interesting reference material that are very useful in order to prepare for data science interviews. So what I will do is I will provide a link to an article version of this particular video, where I have a whole lot of reference links in order for you to prepare best for each of these various aspects. And also it has linked to various reference material which can be used for preparation for your data science interview. So I think you would have liked this particular video. I hope this video helps you to be well prepared for your next interview. And before closing this particular video, there are final tips that I want to give to you. The first one on my list is not knowing enough about the job or the company that you are applying for. That is a grave mistake. Make sure that you do not make that particular mistake. Always be prepared for questions such as why do you want to join the company? Always be prepared to answer what is your salary expectation. Be prepared to ask few questions about the role or about the company. If you are not very sure about any particular tool, any particular technology or an algorithm, do not talk about those things. Make sure that you do not mention those things in your resume. It is very important for us to not give any reason for the interviewer to reject us. So if you do not know about a particular concept, or if you are not confident enough about a particular concept, then better do not talk about those concepts. It is very important for you to have a mentor. That helps a lot in your preparation, data science interview preparation. You can also try to have mock interviews with your mentor so that you can be well prepared for your job interview. Then the final ones are always make sure that you maintain the eye contact and be yourself. That is the most important one. Do not try to imitate someone else. Be yourself, be calm, and you would be able to perform really well in your job interview. That's it for now. I hope you would have learned something from this particular video, and see you on another video. Bye until then.